Tell me what you see when you look at me. Do you see another brother lost in these streets looking for his soul?
Trying to find my soul.
Or do you see another brother searching for lost souls in these streets? A street soldier.
Street soldier.
Here to help you get that chip off your shoulder, warm your colder days and sober your drunken ways, and find a way to help you get over these hurdles placed in our path. And this is not meant to amuse you. This is for all those who have questions but are afraid to ask.
I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. No. When times get hard, you lose your way. Open your mind and hear what I say.
This is a message for the hard and the soft. To those who tune in weekly and to those who keep an eye out for 8 p.m. on Sundays and turn their radios off. The truth hurts. The cloth has been pulled. We're walking around half dead. Use this show as your IV. Alive and free is a new movement. We've achieved self-destruction. A street soldier promotes self-improvement.
Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah. Streets couldn't be no colder, so I gotta be a soldier. It shouldn't be this hard for me. Even when it seems so hopeless, I gotta keep my focus. I'm glad to be alive and free, yeah.
To July 31st, 2020, every decade, that's every 10 years, the Census Bureau attempts to collect information on every person living in the United States, regardless of immigration or census status. Simply put, if you're here, you count. And a little bit more, the U.S. Census Bureau is gearing up to efforts to ensure it counts as many people as possible. In an effort to address questions and concerns regarding the census, a census with a capital C, that's the way they've been doing it. We have some census experts. I don't know if you guys knew you're experts, but tonight, you're experts here tonight to answer questions from our listeners. And we're going to give you a chance to call in too if any question that you have is not answered. And joining us in the studio is, well, you guys introduce yourselves. Just introduce yourself and say your affiliation, and then I will say once again, welcome. So here we go. Who we got first?
All right. First up is David Tucker. I'm with the California Complete Count Office, not to be mistaken with the U.S. Census Bureau. I am the Northern California lead and the regional program manager for Region 3, which consists of Solano County, Marin, San Francisco, Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo.
And
Alessia Simmonds, outreach manager for the Alameda County Complete Count Committee.
All right. And
good evening. My name is Robert Clinton. I work for the City of County of San Francisco in the Office of Civic Engagement and Immigrant Affairs. I'm the 2020 Census Project Manager.
You sound like Obama.
I've been hearing about him. Seriously, they've been telling me about the man, right? He's a bad brother. Seriously, so man, you have to show me what you got. Oh, show me what you got. All right. So we don't have obviously every place covered, but we got Alameda County, we got San Francisco County, we got the state here, we got Black Census, and my understanding that we also have Lene Norwood on the line, and we'll let Lene listen for now, and then we'll cue him in later. Well, we got so many, you can't 4 people talking at once. So, so I got to ask each of you, I know you got a lot of information to give, but tell me a little bit about your background, each of you, and why are you involved with this? I mean, why are you an expert? I mean, why did you get involved in yes?
Yeah, we're going to do rock, paper, scissors. Who goes first? So this is David. So my background has been in government community relations for the past 30 plus years. And the census is a social calling. Again, as was said earlier, it only happens every 10 years. Mm-hmm. But the effect of it, if we don't do it correctly, is felt for generations. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I'm here to make sure that, and especially in the Black community, that we get our fair share of federal funds and to ensure that our communities don't go without.
Okay. Expert number 2.
So Alessia here, and so very similar to David, I actually live in deep East Oakland, which is extremely hard to count.
How deep do you live?
77.
Yeah, you deep. 98 would be deep. Brookfield and Sobrani Park, but that's deep enough.
Yes, and so my community, I come from our hard to count community, which means that we historically don't respond to the census, and I'm sure we'll talk about this at length, but the census determines our political representation, also how much funding our community gets, so it's really gonna determine what kind of resources we'll have for the next 10 years, so it's really important to me personally as a public servant, so yeah.
Okay. I should have asked, what are you doing when you're not doing the census? But that's another story. We'll say that for more. We got some dead time. Go ahead.
I am a Bay Area guy, born and raised, and when I was in college, I used census data all the time, wondered how we got this data, how do we know who's here, and was really interested in figuring out how we could make an impact kind of on this crumbling democracy that we live in.
You do sound like Obama, don't you? Yeah. Crumbling democracy.
Vote for me.
Voting is hard. Getting out there and taking time off of work and finding childcare and stuff is really hard. The census is a 10-minute survey you can do that tells the government that you're here so that our communities get the resources and representation that we deserve. So it seemed like a no-brainer to hop on this and make sure that people who look like us get counted.
Oh, thank you. Thank all three of you. So anytime we do any subject, we assume that nobody knows anything, right?
Yeah.
Always assume that. And so right from the beginning, again, I know we said it once, you said a little bit, say what the census is and why, the who, what, why, where. Just start there, right there. I'm a listener and I'm new. And what is this thing called the census and why is it so important? That's the word I was looking for. All right.
Yeah, because when I think of the census, I think of the movie Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, The Wash. You remember that scene with the, no?
I do.
Okay.
I do remember
that. Was
that.
like one of my favorite movie scenes.
Yeah. The Wash. Yeah. That was a crazy movie.
Yeah.
I might be a little
They
too,
from the Census Bureau.
Don't start talking about that.
Okay. So, as I said, the census happens every 10 years, and it's required under the Constitution. It's important because, again, we have to ensure that we know who we have, how many we have, and where they are in our states, in our cities, in our counties across this nation. And it helps to define your how many elected officials you might have in your state. Which is one of the reasons why the state of California has put in $187 million to do outreach and education.
$187 million?
$187 million.
Oh,
thank you, former Governor Brown, and thank you, current Governor Newsom. And it is to help, again, assure that for California, when we are talking about federal dollars coming back for child care, federal dollars coming back for roads, federal dollars coming back for health care, that we get our fair share. And so it's important to ensure that, especially for African Americans, because African Americans have been traditionally one of the most undercounted populations in the nation. In the 2010 census, over 800,000 African Americans weren't counted. And when you start thinking about how much how much dollars associated with a person, 800,000 times maybe $1,000 per person, that's a lot of money that doesn't come back into our communities. And so, and as I said earlier, we don't have, it's not about your citizenship. That is not on the census. So everybody in a household, everybody who is living in a household, whether you're a relative or not, we have to make sure that they get counted. And I think one of the other areas of concern, of course, is this is the first time the census will be online. And so it was a big push to make sure that everybody takes the census, self-respond by going online to get counted. And I'm sure we'll get into the dynamics of what that means shortly.
You have anything to add to that? I'm telling you what I heard. What I heard is it affects the federal dollars that come into the state, right? Is that Correct. And see, I didn't even, the first thing you said was required by the Constitution. I just forgot that. I didn't. Glad you said that. See, you learn something, and I'm old every day. Yes. Anything you want to add to that? The importance. Why?
Yeah, so particularly for Alameda County, we receive 60% of our resources from the state and federal government. And each person who completes the census brings $10,000 back to their community for the next 10 years.
Really?
So for each person who's missed in the count equates to $1,000 lost per person per year for 10 years. And as David was mentioning, it determines the funding for the Women, Infants, and Children program, food assistance programs, transportation. It also gives us really important demographic data on our community. So this is how we're able to enforce the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and other equity laws that we have on the books.
Demographic data. Yeah. Yeah, I'm taking notes. I really am. Because we work with young people and they don't know all this. Anything you want to add, Rob, to that? Did they cover it all? Yeah. Okay. Knowing that, why would somebody be reluctant to participate? I'm just what you just said. It'd be like, are people reluctant? Have been. And in what areas and in what communities? Can I ask one other question? Does the census have to do with, and I've heard this before and I may be wrong, redistricting and boundaries? That's the piece I remember from the census. Could you explain a little bit about the political types in here? Go ahead.
I know I'm looking at my resident demographic over here. Yes, the census helps to determine where the lines are drawn in our communities. The census, as I said earlier, ends around the end of July. And then during the summer months, the U.S. Census Bureau will be taking all this data, crunching the numbers, and then they will present a report to Congress and the President at the end of December that then they will look at and certify it. Once that is certified, then the states will then take that information and start drawing lines for congressional districts, state Senate, state Assembly, all the way down to city council districts and special districts. And so what we've learned also is, over 2010, 2020, there's been a lot of shift in terms of where folks live.
Right.
And if we don't start getting an accurate count of where folks move to, we will have pockets in our communities that may not have the right representation. Because, somebody who may just moved in the area might all of a sudden rise to the top. We know that in some areas, folks, in Richmond, North Richmond, they're reluctant. Going back to that question earlier, some folks are just reluctant because they think that, my information is going to be used against me. Some people are just reluctant because it's online.
That's the way he thinks.
Conspiracy
theorist.
Right. It's amazing because, people talk about, I don't want to give my information out, but we go to a Warriors game, and then when the San Francisco Chronicle is out there giving away a T-shirt or a towel, we're the first ones in the line talking about, hey, yeah, we want my income, yeah, but we won't talk about the census in a way that I can get some money to my community so that health center down the street or that daycare is going to stay open. Wait a minute, I can't do that. So we have to figure out how we're going to change the shift in why we give information and where we give information to and the value that we get back for it.
So let me just stick with this, because I'm trying to, and particularly since this is a political year, and you hear about redistricting, and you hear about, and some of these words, I know the word, but I'm not sure, gerrymandering, right? You hear about districts being redrawn and so on and so forth. It's all that information, and I know there's political reasons that people do it, because they want to, I guess, get a certain type of clientele. That was a good word to use, in a particular district that will vote for them. But is all that based on census data? And to begin with, I mean, how does the census data inform that? I'm just asking. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm looking at Robert because this is what he does in his day job.
Come on, Robert. Come on, man. Jump on in here, brother. Come on, man.
That's a little bit of a stretch.
Okay.
The census,
my question is a stretch, or what he said was a stretch?
What David said is a stretch, but I'll answer your question as best I can. I mean, In essence, the census is in the Constitution to count how many people live in the U.S., and it does so at several different levels. And so when we know how many people live in a community, in a neighborhood, in a state, we're better able to create equal-sized districts.
Equal size.
Equal size.
Supposedly.
One person, one vote.
Right, okay.
Right? And so this idea of making sure that we have representation that is tied to our population statistics is what determines how district lines are drawn here in the city of county of San Francisco for the supervisors, for the state for our reps there. And it also determines how many representatives each state gets in the House. That's tied to our population data, which is determined solely and exclusively by the census. So the projections right now say that California is in danger of losing a seat in the House, which has never happened before.
That's okay. That's the kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of numbers.
Because our population of people who are hard to count is larger than other states' populations of people who are hard to count.
I got it.
So we're in danger of being undercounted and losing some of the representation that we are entitled to. So as we know, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, represents us here in California, here in San Francisco. We're entitled to having 53 seats in the House, is what we have now. And we may not get to keep that after the reapportionment is done, after the census data comes out. And that means that another state that doesn't share our values could have more of a say in the federal policy landscape for the next 10 years. So it's super important that we get counted, because it means that we have equal voice and the voice that we're entitled to in D.C. with the people who are making the laws that affect us right here at a local level.
And what's the probability of us losing that number?
It depends on how good of a job we do to get people counted.
You want to ask something? Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is sort of speaking to your earlier question about why someone would be reluctant to take the census.
Yes.
Well, increased fear and distrust in our government is really going to be the biggest challenge. You know, our people are already distrustful of the government, as David was alluding to earlier. And the Governor's Accountability Office predicts a 17% reduction in self-response based on fear and distrust alone.
Ooh.
Yeah, and in Alameda County, if we undercount by only 6%, we would lose $1 billion in our community over the next 10 years. So there's literally billions of dollars at stake. And it would affect those people who are already marginalized. And not taking your census for those communities would further marginalize them.
And Trump doesn't help.
Jump back.
That's right.
And the only thing I want to add is that, you know, people are really afraid about giving their information to the government. And when we talk about information, it's this big, scary word. The census is around 9 questions, right?
There he is.
There he is. I know. I'm talking to you. We're talking about your name, your birth date, your race, your ethnicity, and your gender. And that's it, right? So we're not talking about your household income. We're not talking about your citizenship status. We're not talking about anything that's particularly sensitive, anything that the government doesn't already know. If you have a driver's license or pay taxes or go to Warriors games and sign up for all those surveys like Dave was talking about.
Or a warrant.
Really, really simple stuff. Really simple stuff.
Don't inform on you.
So
That was good. Well, just say that one more time. So the questions that are being asked, and
Questions
let's
that are
go
being
there
asked.
right now since you brought that up.
Okay.
What does the census ask you?
The census asks us
Yes.
what your name is.
Name.
It's the name your mom gave you, not like your play name, not your street name.
Not your street name, LD.
It asks you for your sex. It
All
asks
right.
you for your age and birth date.
Age.
It asks you for your race.
Uh-huh.
It asks for your ethnicity. And then it asks how every person in the household is related to each other. And that's it. Nothing else.
Brother, sister, aunt, uncle, nephew, niece, play
auntie, yeah,
auntie.
play cousin.
You know,
yeah,
we
yeah,
do
no.
it, right? That's it? That's what it is?
That's it.
That's it?
That's it. Easy.
That's it?
So easy.
9 questions. Seriously.
It should not take more than 10 minutes.
Wait. Name, sex, age, birth date, race, ethnicity, and relationship of
Yes. Each
folks
person
to
to each
you
other.
in the household. Those are
Right.
the questions.
That's
so
it.
they're not asking you for your social security number.
No.
They're not asking you for your driver's license.
Nah.
They're not asking you for your credit rating. They're not asking.
They're not
You're
asking-
safe, man. You're safe.
So what generation is most skeptic or like you know what I mean? Like, is it the older generation, the younger generation? Which ones don't trust the Census Bureau the most? Who wants to answer that? Do you want to answer that?
I know we have Lene Norwood on the call, and
Let's bring
the reason why I bring Lene's name into this. So when I talked about the $187 million that the state of California has put into outreach and education, one of the areas that we are targeting specifically is African American population, and so there was a statewide RFP to conduct this outreach, and Lene is part of the California Calls, which is part of a redistricting hub and census outreach effort from Southern California, and they're charged with doing specific outreach to African American communities throughout the state of California, and they have been at this now for maybe almost a year, and they've been doing a lot of canvassing, polling in the Central Valley down Southern California, and they recently released a report card that got to the question of what age group is somewhat reluctant to do that, and of course seniors aren't. So seniors are more concerned about, of course, going online and doing it, but they will do it. When you start looking at that 18 to 24 age range, that's when you start getting a little bit more of a question of whether they will or will not. I don't know. It's I don't know if it's an age thing or geography where they come from. But maybe Lene can go a little bit more into it, because they actually created a site called myblackcounts.org that has a lot of good information regarding the census that is African American focused, and it's a website that looks like us, for us, and about us.
Lene, thank you for listening patiently while we've been calling everybody experts in the studio.
Sure.
I've talked about the same. Is there anything that you want to fill in? Go right ahead. And so let me just turn it over to you. First of all, say what you do and who you are and what you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So I am the Strategic Communications Lead for the California Black Census and Redistricting Hub. We are a coalition of 35 Black-led and Black-serving community-based organizations that are at the forefront of social justice issues throughout the state of California. I'm also the creator of My Black Counts, which is our education and awareness campaign that is designed to, first and foremost, celebrate the diversity of the Black community, because Black is not a monolith, right? We know that there are so many different walks of life. We have our Black immigrant and refugee community. We have Gen Z, millennials, boomers, you name it. So it's such a broad landscape of what Black represents within our community. So My Black Counts was really designed to make the census a point of interest for all of those communities, and really to call in the benefits of participating in how the census impacts our everyday lives. So I heard you guys talking a lot about, why are people hesitant to take the census? And we know the landscape of what the Black experience is like in America. So there is a deep-rooted government distrust, but also there's just a lack of awareness. A lot of people that we've engaged hundreds of thousands of people throughout the state of California since September. And a lot of the feedback that we've received from the field is a lot of people just don't know and understand, right? So it's really just being a trusted messenger, being a familiar face, being a familiar name in terms of our coalition, or somebody who looks like them, talks like them, relates to them, and really just breaking it down into layman's terms, like, hey, the census is a count of everybody living in America. It determines our resources for public programs, and really naming those public programs like affordable housing and HUD, Medicare, Head Start, child care subsidy programs, school lunches, financial aid. And then when you talk to the community in those terms, they really understand the importance and they grasp and they buy in. So we've been just beating the pavement, making sure that we're touching the broad landscape of California and the diversity of the Black community to ensure that they understand what the census is and understand why it's so important to our community.
Anything about reparations?
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to bring up. So one other thing that wasn't mentioned that the census is critical to is tracing our lineage and ancestry. A lot of genealogists reference census data to identify, family lineage, arrival into the Americas if you are an African descendant of slaves, really understanding your family tree. So when we're looking at the potential for Black Americans to receive reparations, census data is going to be considered and utilized to determine what that would look like if that was something that our Congress actually pushed forward. So not only does it determine public funding, redistricting, electoral college votes, how many Congress members we receive that represent our communities, it also determines, what our lineage looks like. This is a record of our existence in America, so it's important that we're represented.
All right, hour number 2, Alive and Free Radio, Street Soldiers. We are talking about the census. Census 2020. I'm going to read a little bit here that I have. Let's see. Local officials and community leaders are preparing an all-out push to urge residents to respond to the 2020 census. The census count will shape how federal tax dollars are shared in the United States over the next 10 years. Census numbers will also determine the number of congressional seats and electoral college votes each state gets. Okay, every 10 years, people across the country fill out the census in order to have an accurate count of all people in the United States. And joining us in the studio to discuss this are Robert Clinton from the city of San Francisco. And if I say your affiliation wrong, say it right. Alessia Simmonds, right? Is it Simmonds? Representing Alameda County, right? And David Tucker, the state of California. And on the phone we have Lene Norwood. And I'm just going to say CA Black Census, right? And if it's not, Lene will tell me when she gets on. So let's talk a little bit about this. Is the first time it's being done online, and I would think, and I'm thinking about. I've been around. I just realized how many censuses I've been around for. I'm not telling you, but it's been a few, and it was always somebody coming to my door, and I'm one of the folks who always had a problem knocking on my door for anything, and God bless the Jehovah Witness. But they come to my door, I'd be like, hey man, I don't want the I'm sorry, I ain't trying to knock them. You know what I'm saying? So people come to my door. So this seemed to me that online would be easier to do. Certainly, you wouldn't have to. You just go online. So, but I imagine that might not necessarily be the case, and there is a real challenge in shifting from a personal. Because I'm thinking if it's personal, I'm with my boy. Come on, man, we're gonna do. It ain't like voting when you gotta do it in secret, right? You could probably organize census parties. Like I used to do when I watched, what was that show that went off that one that drove me crazy? Scandal. Olivia, what was the one with Olivia's on? Scandal parties. You go to watch Scandal and everything. Whatever happened to her? She scared me. But anyway, but now I can't, that wouldn't, so it's private online. So talk about the challenge of, how do you think it's going to turn out, the whole online thing? Because that starts soon, right? It's like,
Thursday.
Really?
Yes.
Good thing we did this show tonight. Okay. Yeah, talk about that. Well, how do you think that's going to go? And anybody, Lene, you can jump in. Anybody, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so we are 4 days away from the census going live, and households can expect to get a letter in the mail. As you know, in years past, you would just get that paper form right away, fill it out, mail it back, you're done. But this time, you're going to get a 12-digit code to go online and take your census that way. This is it's great for folks who are already online, already have access to Wi-Fi and broadband in their homes. However, it's going to alienate our senior community, who don't access the internet, our homes that don't have broadband and, access to broadband in their homes, which was another hard-to-count community.
Yep.
It's going to be an issue of access, and that's why in Alameda County, we have invested in all of our libraries, our local community-based organizations, our faith-based organizations, and we're actually equipping them to host questionnaire assistance centers where they'll have technology, and these are places where our community already trust and already go to access services. So at senior centers, for example, we're going to have questionnaire assistance centers there as well, and there'll be people who can actually walk our folks through the census online and help provide that access.
So could a church do something like that?
Yes, absolutely. And our faith communities, our faith leaders are remarkably trusted in our community. And that's why we've been able to provide grant funding to a lot of our faith organizations in Alameda County. And also, we had our larger outreach grants. Then we had our mini grant funding that we had for faith organizations. And then now, if there's any faith leaders listening, our sponsorship program is still available, where Alameda County will pay for food, incentive gift cards, and also a stipend for someone to organize like a census Sabbath at their church, for example, where they invite their congregants, but then also their local communities as well.
Can you still do it both ways now, or is it only online?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, starting March 12th, you get a letter in the mail. That letter is also going to have instructions on how to call the Census Bureau and take your census over the phone.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you do not take your census by April 8th, then you will get a paper form in the mail. There are some limitations there. The paper form's only going to be available in English and Spanish, and you'll only get a Spanish form if you live in a census tract that has a 20% or higher threshold of Spanish speakers. So in Alameda County, we anticipate that there's going to be a lot of folks receiving that bilingual form, but online and by phone, you can actually take it in 13 different languages.
Anybody want to add anything to the whole online piece? Lene or your Robert Hamer, jump in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just love to add, the online questionnaire comes with lots of different challenges because there are limiting factors that make it so that there are people who aren't able to do it online, like seniors and other folks who don't have internet access at home, who don't have digital literacy. But it is a great opportunity because it opens up the possibilities of who is able to respond. Even though the Census Bureau is sending out a letter in the mail with a 12-digit code, you don't need that code to go online and do the census. So anyone can go online and do it. Everyone should do it. You don't need a password or a code or anything like that. And if you don't do it by the end of April, the Census Bureau is going to begin sending workers to go door to door to households.
So that's going to happen if you haven't heard from you.
Exactly.
They're going to come find you.
They're going to come find you. But people don't want to open their doors.
Right.
Especially with coronavirus and Jehovah's Witnesses and all that stuff. So we want as many people as possible to go online or call in to do the census to avoid having those Census Bureau workers have to go out and collect responses in person.
Is it only one person per household?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, and David, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the census is going to be available over the phone, and that telephone number is going to be live starting March 9th as well.
Tomorrow. Yes.
We're doing this show tonight. Go ahead. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the things that when we do talk about the online, you have to be prepared to know everybody in your household, what their information is. And if you have extended family members or if you have roommates, somebody has to designate who's the primary, and then all your roommates and all the information has to be known. So we're also trying to educate people that when you do go online, Make sure you have all the names written down, all the date of birth written down, and so forth. So you can do it in one setting, because it will time out if, like most things online, if you don't fill it out fast enough, it'll time out on you, and then you pretty much got to start over again. You can't, save for another day.
My daddy would have a hard time. He would have had a hard time with timeout. Because I'm the oldest of 9, so we had to get all our names in. My mama home bit. Timing out is a little bit different. Somebody sitting down with you.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is that the Census Bureau has told us that they'll accept multiple responses for the same address. So if you got 9 siblings and you can't do it all at once, you can have 5 of them do it at one time and then 4 of them do it at another time for the same household. So there are situations where one person can do it for everyone living in a place. There are other situations where every single person in the house can do it for themselves.
This is a fountain of information, I swear.
Well, what happens if you give the wrong information? What if you just say like a bunch of people live with you and they really don't? Should we be doing that because we need?
You mean that Allen Iverson with all his boys?
We cannot endorse plagiarism on your census form. We want you to be honest, and we want you to be honest and put the number of folks that are there. But there are some backstops to ensure that the count is done correctly. And so once the count happens, we will begin getting information from the U.S. Census Bureau in terms of where the response is low. And so we can then go back to our community partners and say, hey, over on 5th and Elm, in that census tract, we're not getting, people aren't responding. Do you have an organization that can go knock on some doors, or you can host a party or something to get people to come out and participate? Then at the end of the count, the U.S. Census Bureau will then send out a team of people to do verification. It's going to be random. It's not going to be on every census block, but they will then send out a team to go out and then validate some of the information that we've received. And so there is that, protection, if you will, about people who are trying to game the system. Because we do know in some areas, while we may have an undercount in some of our communities,
some may have an overcount.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they may want some more seats. They may want. Oh, heck. Yeah, heck yes. Yeah.
Guess who's most overcounted in every census?
Go ahead, you say it. I might say the wrong thing, and then they'll be like, you said, go ahead, who is? Really?
I mean, in every census, non-Hispanic white people are overcounted, and people of color are undercounted.
I would think that might be the case.
And why?
Like politically, because they try to get more than they deserve.
Wait.
All right.
That's right.
but only because you looking at me.
We could talk about the speculative reasons why.
That was a speculative
reason why. One of the things that we know are that non-Hispanic white people are more likely to have multiple homes. They're more likely to be counted in 2 different places at the same time.
Let me just say, in my rationalization, when I see this gerrymandering and redistricting along lines that go on, for votes, I think I can say that, because there are political reasons for folks doing that. Let me throw the number out: 800-SOLDIER. 800-SOLDIER. Anybody out there who has a question about the census, no matter whatever it is, and there is no dumb question, give us a call, 800-765-3437, 800-SOLDIER. And let me just repeat once again, as the online census begins, the questions you are being asked to provide answers to. You're asked your name, your sex, your age, your birthday, right? Your race, your ethnicity, and the relationships to the people that are living with you. That's it. Well, I'm going to say this, folks. You're not being asked, because people always ask me, can you punch in your social, last 4 numbers of your social? Every time I go somewhere, right? You don't have any, we don't want your PIN numbers. Got to say that, because that's big now, right? We don't want your driver's license. We don't want your social security, we want any of that. Name, sex, age, birth date, race, ethnicity, and the relationships of the people who live in the household with you. 800-SOLDIER, 800-765-3437. I got some questions that were sent to me that people have asked in other forums, and I'll just do it. Tell me what. Here's one. Why should I bother with Census 2020? I filled out the form the last time and I didn't see any improvements in my neighborhood or community. All right, experts, go ahead. Man, there ain't nothing in my neighborhood, man. You know, why should I do it? That's the way it really sounds when it comes across. How would you respond to that?
So one of the ways that the census comes back into a community, which may not be visible to everyone, again, is to the services that are being provided in that community. It could be, a road that got fixed in the general area of that community. And so it's not about what you may see personally, but it's the overall impact of a community that gains by you living there, filling out the census.
That's a great answer. That really is. It's not about what you necessarily see personally, but that doesn't mean improvements haven't happened based
Correct.
on the census dollars.
Right.
You should run for something too. That was good. That was really good. Now here's one. Here's another. I'm undocumented, and I'm at risk of deportation.
No.
Right? If he thinks of this person is.
I know.
If I respond to the census survey, won't I be deported? And please answer that, because we got a lot of folks who listen to the show. I know it.
So the answer is absolutely not. Your individual census data are protected by extremely strong federal laws. It's called Title 13, and the Census Bureau is prohibited from sharing any of your personally identifiable information with any outside party, which includes ICE, DHS, your landlord, the IRS. No outside agency can get your personal information. And if so this law is called Title 13. If any Census Bureau employee breaks this law, then they could face up to 5 years in prison and have to pay a $250,000 fine.
I gotta say, in this time, that's probably going to be a huge challenge because, and I will say this, it's obvious to me, maybe to nobody else, that all our institutions at that federal level are being politicized, from the Department of Justice, on down. So my thought, well, why can't they get to these folks? You're right, and there's a whole lot of things more I could say about that, but and that population got to be counted. It's got to be counted. And you work with OCEIA, you know that, right? And we work with the Dreamers, so I know that. We've had them on the show. We've sent them to college, the whole bit. And now with public charge here, and stopping, it's crazy. That's going to be a real challenge to get that population to want to talk to anybody. Absolutely. Anybody want to say anything about that?
Yeah. Just adding a little bit to that, Title 13 does protect our information. It makes it so that the information cannot be shared. There was a big controversy about the questions that would be on the census. There was a proposed citizenship question on the census.
I remember that, and that's why I'm saying I remember they tried to add that into whatever his name is. That guy was right. Yes,
and that's not on the census. So it will not ask you for your citizenship status, and just kind of complicate things a little bit more. There's a way for you to answer the census without putting your actual house address on it. So you can put your city, state, zip code, and then a description of where you live, making sure that you get counted, make sure that your community gets the resources it's entitled to without revealing actually where you live, which could be something that really makes people feel more comfortable responding if they are undocumented.
Yeah, great. That's great. The zip code, but not necessarily the home address.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. You want to say something?
No, I was just...
Okay, you give me the high sign. Okay, go right ahead. We got a call? Let's take this call. Yes, thanks for calling, Street Soldiers. You got a question about the census?
Yeah, I have a question. We are immigrants from Africa, and actually this is the first time that we involved about counting people, and I'm trying to see how can I help my community, especially from Somalia. And they have a language barrier, and they don't even know where to go. I also own the only business, I think second business, city of San Jose. They all come to my store, my business, and I'm trying to see how can I help my community to count out everybody that I need help also the language barrier. So if I'm looking for a place that I can go and get information. So, or if I need to give information to someone, so they can come my store and educate my people.
Great question.
Wow.
Let's see
You're
if we
a
can get you an
community
answer.
pillar.
Go ahead. Who wants to start?
I'm going to give out a web address where you can go to get information. It's just californiacensus.org. That's the state website for any and all things around the census. You can find information around organizations that are being supported and funded by the California operation. And then you can also get more information from 2020census.gov. That is the U.S. Census Bureau's website. And on that site, you will see they prepare a lot of information around the census in various languages that you could upload and support and put into your place of businesses. Then we also have in every county around the state, and like I said, we have two here, Alameda County and in San Francisco County. They also have individual websites that you can go to upload information, and oftentimes it is in different languages. And because, again, it was said earlier, 13 languages is what you can access for U.S. Census Bureau. And so most of the counties around the state have adopted those languages within their particular county so that people feel, so they can get it and feel comfortable in the language that they speak and are familiar with.
That's when you say CaliforniaCensus.org. Is that spelled out? CAL,
Yes, the whole word.
the whole state.
Yes.
Census.org and 2020census.gov.
Correct.
Is there a phone number? Is there a central phone number by any chance that somebody can call? And I mean, he's not in your county. So, is there one? Do you know? If not, then maybe there is. We'll look it up and see.
Yeah, no, really, we really try to have everyone go to the website. Because they can also kind of channel through other areas regarding press releases, information that's being reported by the state. So CaliforniaCensus.org will help you get to any county, any city where you are.
So I hope that's helpful. You got those two websites?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I can Google also. Also, one more question I have is is there any recruiter to my community that can do a volunteer work or get paid that help the community so they can count everybody?
So again, and I didn't hear what county you're in, but each county has a local complete count committee where they post information regarding volunteer opportunities, events and activities that may be taking place in and around that particular county. And then also, if you go to the 2020census.gov site, where the U.S. Census Bureau it has information regarding hiring for enumerators. That has been a big challenge, actually, in some of our communities. That the U.S. Census Bureau, starting back in November, was doing trying to recruit people who live in certain communities to apply for the jobs and go through the process. Unfortunately, the process hasn't gone as well as one had hoped, and so we still ask folks to contact the U.S. Census Bureau and see if you can become an enumerator to assist in your community, because you only can sign up, you can only enumerate somebody or help them fill out their census form if you are a paid enumerator. You cannot volunteer and help someone fill out their form. It has to be done by a sworn U.S. Census Bureau employee.
All right, we continue with our show on the 2020 census and online registration. What we call it? Registration online. Say it again.
Self-response.
Self-response begins when? Give me that date. When does it begin? Say, we need a date. Begins date this Thursday.
March 12th.
March 12th. All right. It begins then. Okay, we got somebody on the line to ask a question. Let's go to Kentfield. I know Kentfield has a question about, I believe, a high school. Kentfield, how you doing, bro? How you doing?
Yes, sir. How y'all doing?
I'm learning a lot. I've taken a ton of notes, and specifically, I want to pass them out to the young people we work with. I think do you have a question about high school kids, or go right ahead? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. I just wanted to know if they had, if ambassadors were able to set up questionnaire assistance centers at high schools?
Yes, absolutely. So in Alameda County, we have our Census Ambassador program, which means you sign up as a volunteer with our office and you'll have access to all of our printed materials. And if the young people are interested in actually putting a whole event together, having a questionnaire assistance center, having a workshop, then we are here to support any project like that. And as I was saying earlier, we can provide funding for food, $5 incentive gift cards to really draw people to your workshop or questionnaire assistance center. And then we can also stipend the young people in the amount of a gift card in the amount of $250 for doing so. So we're really gift card of $250. $250.
Can I go back to being 17? Wow. $250? It was doing $5 when I was 17. That was a lot then.
Yep, and to find out more about that program, you can go to our website, which is acgov.org/census2020.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Great.
It's great.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know if these same incentives for ambassadors are in other counties like Contra Costa, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Sacramento, San Jose, San Joaquin counties.
Yes. So again, each county does have a local complete count committee that have their own unique outreach ambassador program. So if you go to the CaliforniaCensus.org site, that's where you can pull up on a county. So the state of California is broken into 10 regions, and then the region has the different counties and so forth. And then each county has established a process and a protocol to reach their hard-to-count communities. And again, our focus is trying to reach the hard-to-count community. So I would just encourage you to go to that site, and you can find more information out around what's happening around the state of California.
Great. Appreciate it, man.
I'll say for San Francisco, so we also have questionnaire assistance centers, but we're not as fancy, so we call them census help centers. If you go to sfcounts.org, you can see a list of our census help centers with a map in San Francisco that provide assistance in different languages, also with hours of operation, some filters for accessibility and for people who are experiencing homelessness. And at the bottom of that page, there's a link that you can click to add yourself to the map to be a census help center. And we'll also provide kind of a whole kit for you, some language guides, some signage, things like that, some trainings also. I think that what we've been trying to encourage folks in the city, especially young folks, is to help the people who they know in their lives to do the census. So rather than kind of hosting a site at their schools, think about going to your grandma's house and helping her do the census.
Yeah.
Making sure that your family does it at home as well.
Yeah.
Really reaching people kind of in your families where you are in your network. So I think it's kind of a dual approach, perhaps.
Wow.
And I also would be remiss if I didn't mention the United Way Bay Area. So United Way Bay Area is what we're considering as a administrative community-based organization, and they are supporting the counties within the Bay Area to do census outreach and education. And if you go to unitedwaybayarea.uwba.org, and they have a whole census page there, and also information regarding ambassadors program, question assistance center, kits, and things of that nature. So United Way Bay is also a supporting partner in this effort.
I just want to mention, you go help Grandma fill out the census. Do not ask her for $250, okay? Because you already here. That's not the reason. I know young people. All right. Kevin, I want to say thanks, man. I just want to thank you for the effort. I know you put together. This is his social action project for the Bay Area Panhandle Council. I'm the president. He's doing his thing. We put this together, and he's going to take all this information back to all the Greeks, and they're going to do their best to get it out. So he's not only listening, he's taking notes on all of this, and so we're everybody going to do our part to get the word out about the census. So thanks, Kentfield. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you all.
You got it, bro. Listen, I got a couple of other questions that I saw here. By the way, 800-SOLDIER, 800-765-3437. Any question you have about the census, please give us a call. Here's one. What happens if I do not fill out the form? Is that a crime? If so, what is the punishment? Why y'all laughing? Look, that ain't funny to me. I mean, like,
that is actually an often asked question.
Why is it funny? Because you knew it was coming?
Because you knew the question, and it's hard to, from a state perspective, to answer and respond to that since we're not the Bureau. But, as we said, it's required under the Constitution to have the census. And while if you don't fill it out, we really want to encourage everybody to fill out because of the value it brings back to your community.
Yes.
And so I usually throw it back by saying, if you don't fill it out, you're bringing more harm than whether or not one gets prosecuted for not filling out. It's really, what is it that you're going to help for your community? Well, that's filling out the census. If you don't, then next year, 5 years from now, 10 years, that's how long it takes for that money potentially to come back. So it's really not about not taking it. It's really about the importance of taking it.
Is it a crime?
They just want us to take it.
That's right.
I get that part. I get that,
That was my PC answer.
Is it against the law to not do the census? Technically, yes. Do people go to jail for not doing the census? No.
That's all I want to know.
Okay.
That's all I want to know.
You're not going to go to jail, but
You're going to go to jail.
you have to have a bad conscience.
Well, that's different.
It's a crime against your people.
There's no fine or anything, right? Is there a fine? There's no fine, right?
But I think it's worth talking about, like, if you don't do the census, then if you don't do it, then it increases the chances of someone coming to your door to ask you those questions.
Right, I get that part.
And if they don't reach you, then they make up your existence. So it's inaccurate. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't give your community the resources. All of that stuff.
I get all that part.
Okay.
I got that. I got.
You're not going to go to jail, Dr. Marshall.
That's all I want to hear. I ain't going to jail. I ain't going to jail. All right. Because the police. I work with young people. All right. Here's one. My kids live with me part-time. All right. And their dad in a different city. They live with me and part-time with their dad in a different city. Which one of us should count them, or should we both count them?
So,
the kind of questions folks ask.
Yeah, it is. And so the response is, where do they live most of the time?
Okay.
And so, again, even if you have, say it's not your kid, it's a relative that moved out from Florida to try to, find gold in California. If that person is staying with you for a good portion of the time, he or she should be counted on your census form in that household.
All right, I'm looking at some of these questions. These are great questions. So whoever they live with the most,
correct,
should report them. That might be a discussion just between them. Maybe give them a chance to communicate.
Yeah. So if you cannot answer where you stay most of the time, say if the children spend exactly half of their time between their parents, then they get counted where they are on April 1st.
Okay. I think we've answered most of these in here. I think we did this during the break, but I don't know if this actually came out of here. There's a question here: why does the whole race ethnicity portion of applications generalize people? And this is a question. There are so many ethnicities, yet only a handful of them are on the list. How should someone answer that question if they don't feel that the choices accurately represent them? Yeah.
So of the options for filling out your race, there is also some other race, and then it allows you to write in how you identify. This also brings up the point that your census responses, including your name, your sex, it is only the binary male-female option. It's all your self-identified information. And your census responses aren't going to be compared with any other, like your DMV or IRS forms or anything like that. So folks should feel free to answer as they identify.
Lene has been on hold for a while, and I don't know if there's anything that she wants to add while I look for some of these questions. Lene, anything you want to, you've been taking notes, anything you want to add that we haven't covered, or any questions that you may have seen?
Yeah, just in terms of the identity question, we know that is a bit of a interesting thing that we experience in the Black community. So we recently did some focus groups, and we have a working group as a part of our coalition with our partner Baji, who is one of the national authorities on Black immigration. And we did, through some surveying and focus groups, found out that there was an interest in potentially some Black communities who are immigrant and refugee checking Black and then writing in the ethnicity their nationality. So it's kind of like Black plus. So that's one thing that we've found that has really helped clear up that confusion, because like a lot of college students we talked to, they didn't know how to identify on like financial aid forms or other government forms that asks for your race and ethnicity. So that was something that was tossed around and was received very well, because again, we're all united by the Black experience in America. When you're walking down the street, you're not treated differently because you're Kenyan, you look Black. So you're going to be treated as such. So we found that Black plus messaging was something that people were considering in terms of their identity.
Thank you for that.
So someone just found me on Twitter and messaged me about Street Soldiers, and they said it's a legendary program, but they said, do you think there would ever be a possibility for the census to have more incentives, like gift cards and stuff like that, to get people to participate more?
Everybody backed away from that question because they don't make the rules. So, I mean, I do like that
neighborhood barbecue.
Again, I think all that is localized by the city or the county that one lives in terms of the programs that they may put in. There are some counties that have put in a significant amount of funds to help incentivize and entice and encourage. And there are some counties that aren't as well financed, and they're just doing mailings to get people out, or hoping that the Rotary Club or for Optimists do some activities. And so it really varies. And so I just encourage, again, the CaliforniaCensus.org site or the individual counties themselves. If you just Google, say Alameda County Census, their website will pop up. Contra Costa County Census, it'll pop up their site, and it will be able to tell you what kind of programs they have, what kind of monies they're offering, and how to go through the process.
Question, quick.
I had another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I interviewed one of the people from the National Census Bureau, and they're talking about how Black men are the most significantly miscounted, right? And they also said that if you try to get a quick part-time job with the census, you can make up to $30 an hour. Is this true?
Yeah. So when the Bureau was, when they announced their jobs, now again, the funding or the salary range was specific to the Bay Area, and the Bay Area rate was about $27 to $30 an hour. And so we were really trying to push people who live in certain communities, because they are respected in there, they look like them, they're a trusted messenger to apply for these jobs. And yeah, $30. One of the challenges, of course, was once people fit out the application, it took a little bit of time for them to, it's like a 3-month process for the U.S. Census Bureau to go through the background check and everything. Yeah. So some people, got discouraged because they didn't hear back in time or other reasons and so forth. So, they had to really, try to ramp up. It was like 5 applicants for 1 hire, because of the drop-off rate.
That made me think of something. And so people on parole, or I got to ask that, people on parole, they're counted. People who are, what about people who are locked up? Are they counted? When you said that, the background check made me think of, so how does that population fit into this? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's a whole separate operation that the Census Bureau conducts, and this is called group quarters. So it's the way they count people in prisons, in nursing homes, any place where people are living in the same facility that are receiving a common service. They all get counted. So this would also include like dorms for students, for example, where the Census Bureau reaches out to them, which is what they've been doing in the month of February, and they're scheduling appointments to enumerate those folks in those group quarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to hear. They will be counted then. All right.
Again, the Census Office is trying to ensure that whether you're incarcerated, whether you're sleeping on the streets, living in your car, or living in a mansion, everybody gets counted. And so our role in terms of the California Complete Count Office as well as the counties is to ensure that the U.S. Census Bureau knows where these folks are. And that's where I think the support of those listeners, especially when we talk about those who experience homelessness or those households that, they have somebody living in their garage and the garage, has, non-related people. It doesn't matter. They need to be counted, and we need to ensure that if there is folks living underneath a bridge or in a park on, a corner of Fifth and Elm, we need to know where they are so that the Bureau can go out and count them. The Bureau will go out for those experiencing homelessness. They're actually going to count in person, and you don't have to have that unique identifying number. You can just self-respond without that. We're also encouraging communities to have, whether it's a soup kitchen or a wash station, a church gathering and so forth, that those who are find themselves without a home can go to these locations and also get counted in groups, if you will. And so our whole purpose, again, is to make sure that people, no matter what your situation is, you matter and you need to be counted.
We got, wow.
Yeah. By the way, Miss Brooke from Twitter, she says she's screaming at the radio right now, thanking us for asking her question.
Thank you, Miss Brooke. Right back at you, man. We're coming to the end. Let's go over the basics, right? The importance, everything that you said early, the importance of this, when it starts. Why don't you just reiterate that one more time, please?
So, sorry. So the census goes live on March 12th. The census is important because it determines how much funding a community gets for a variety of social programs, social services, infrastructure projects. It also determines a community's political representation, so really their voice and how much power a community has. And it also provides that really important demographic data that helps us to enforce equity laws. This census is going to be the first census in history conducted primarily online. However, you can still take the census by phone or on paper.
Anything else? I remember you earlier said something's going to be in the mail to you so that you're going to receive. Go ahead. No, I don't want to...
Yeah, I just want to add, it's a 9-question survey. It should take no more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You can respond online, by mail, by phone at any point between next week, so tomorrow, and the end of July. So you have a little bit of time to do the census. Should look out for a letter from the Census Bureau hitting your mailbox this week or next week.
I feel like, how they say there should be a national, like a day off for voting? What if there was a day off for the census?
That's a good suggestion. That's a great suggestion. You got 10 years to make it happen. No, I mean, seriously, it doesn't happen in 10 years, like the getting paid and the whole bit. That's a really good... At least, when you convince Larry of the importance of it, we have done a wonderful job. I'm telling you, he is going to do this. He is going to do this.
We're all going to do it, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been doing it for a minute.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
Yeah, so as you're out there talking to your friends and neighbors about the importance of the census, a really easy way to get folks motivated to take it is to say that in 10 minutes, since it only takes 10 minutes to take, you can bring $10,000 back to your community for the next 10 years.
I thought you was going to say $10,000 back with you. Okay. Yeah. $10,000 back to the community for the next 10 years. Wonderful job, everybody. Great job. And I I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you how this sounds. Everything you said, I want you to know how it sounds.
Well, we're going to see. The topic tonight is about the 2020 census, constitutionally required that everyone be counted. Being counted determines the resources received in each and every community. Only 9 questions needing answers from you. Nothing too personal and pretty simple to do. Beginning March 12th, you can self-respond, and it can be done online. It can be done by phone or by mail. The important thing is to be counted and to say you're here. Being counted can determine the number of seats in the House. It can also determine or impact the number of electoral votes, providing resources, improving community access, and so much more. Our guests tonight have been very informative and clear, and with the information provided, they've allayed potential fears. Not being counted can limit access for the next 10 years, so it's important to be counted and to let them know you're here. So Street Soldiers want you to clearly see you matter, you need to be counted, and please stay alive and free. This is Lady Estelle asking you to consider this.
I want to thank all of you. Great job, really. I mean, I want all of you wonderful. Just keep it up, keep pushing. I'm even more impressed by the importance. I knew it was important, but I think you, all three of you, are great representatives. Bree, what'd you think, Bree? You didn't say anything, Bree. You gonna do it, Bree? You gonna do it? Gonna do it? Cam, what you got? You good? You
get
good?
to your census and get on the census. That's my poetry.
No, and Oakland artists did make posters. Come to your census, Oakland.
Oh, really?
That's a campaign in San Francisco.
See, I'm on the right train.
And I think the other thing, because it's got to be Oakland, so we held a count.
Oh.
That was Oakland, right? We hella count. All right, we done. We gotta go.
No, we still got 2 minutes.
We still got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, then, let me just say,
yes.
I remember as a child when the census people would come and knock on the door, my parents said, oh, no, we are not talking. And there was nothing good about the census for some reason. And so you have definitely been very helpful with the information you provided. I wanted to ask about the politicizing and see the other side of that political aspect is, what if our people and those hard to reach people have had that feeling and been made to feel that way just to keep them from having access.
Yeah,
so now you got to know that in order to get it, tell them you're here.
That's good.
What if you've been kept out?
Yes.
We don't want you to feel comfortable, so you don't get it, and we say we just don't got it.
Yeah.
But you do if you let them know you're here.
And that's why a lot of us are in prison too, right? That's another strategy. The people, the population of black people in prison.
Yeah.
There's always a strategy.
Yeah.
We just got to counteract it.
Yeah.
Hey, Lene, I did not get a chance to thank you. Thank you very much for participating. Anything you want to add in our last 30 seconds?
Yeah, visit myblackcounts.org.
Okay.
We're going to be sharing information on community locations where you can take the census. We'll be providing real-time updates, and we're your trusted source of information for the black community. Visit us at myblackcounts.org. Thank you for having us.
You got it. Our pleasure. All right. Everybody, we're out of here. Take the census. Make your presence count. And as always, stay alive and free. We'll see you next week right here on